Assalamu alaikum. This is Aisha Miss from Villa International High School. In today's class, I'm going to introduce the third unit of Econ, which is business behavior. Remember that business behavior is a very important part in your A level because this is one important unit that you will be covering in your AL part. You know that in order to maintain a star in grade 12, we'll be deciding whether you are getting aggregate of 90 in both unit 3 as well as unit 4. That is why this part is very important. As part of major topics that are covered in unit 3, we have mainly 5 different sections. In the first part, you will be learning about different types of businesses, including public sector businesses as well as private sector businesses. You will also be learning about size of businesses such as small firms as well as large firms, advantages and disadvantages of small firms, what are the reasons why small firms are able to be successful than large firms, different types of mergers, objectives of firms' growth such as profit maximization, sales maximization, as well as revenue maximization. You also need to learn different cost, revenue, as well as profit calculations and how to show these things in a graph, because as part of objectives and the graphs that we are going to use in unit 3 for market structure interpretations such as profit graph as well as loss graph, these graphs are important. Another important part that you are going to learn is different types of market structures. Market structure is nothing new. You have studied perfect competition and monopoly in your O levels, but in A level, this part is quite wider. You will be learning under market structure 5 different types of market structures such as monopoly, perfect competition, oligopoly, monopolistic competition, and monopsony. You will also be learning about different efficiencies of market structures, whether monopolies are efficient than perfect competition or whether monopolistic competitions are efficient. So different efficiencies of large as well as small firms you will be learning. In addition to that, you will also be learning about contestable market. As fourth part in this unit, you will be learning about labor market. Under the labor market, you will be learning about demand for labor, supply of labor, equilibrium wage rate, market failure in labor market. And last part of this unit is all about government interventions in product market as well as labor market. So that's all that you will be learning in unit 3 as major contents. When we are looking to the paper structure, in this unit in this paper we have 3 sections. In section A, you will be given 6 multiple choice questions. Each question will be given for 1 mark. In section B, you will be given case studies and you will be given questions up to 34 marks, which includes a 4-mark question, 6-mark question, an 8-mark question, and 1 14 marks essay question. You will also be given 2 essays out of the choice of 3 in section C, which is 40 marks. That means each essay will be given for 20 marks. The duration for this paper is 2 hours and the marks allocated for this paper is 80 marks. So that means you have extra 15 minutes compared to the other units that you have studied so far. When we are looking to the objectives of today's class, as part of the objectives, you should be able to explain different types of businesses, including private sector as well as public sector businesses. You should be able to identify the aim of private as well as public sector businesses, and we'll also be describing about different types of cooperatives. In addition to that, you also need to describe different factors that will be determining the size of businesses. These are the factors which will be determining whether the business is a small business or a large business. In addition to that, you also need to explain different aims of business growth or motives for firms' growth. In addition to that, you will also be learning about survival of small firms. When we are looking to the types of businesses, the first part is private sector. What is a private sector? Here it has given that private sectors are organizations that are owned and controlled by private individuals or companies for profit. So that means private sector businesses are the businesses which are owned, controlled, funded by and accountable to private individuals and firms for profit. When we are looking to some of the private sector businesses, we have mainly 4 different private sector businesses, such as sole trader business. Sole trader business is a business which is owned by one person, and the person will be able to take unlimited liability, and that single person will be responsible for all the losses, at the same time all the profits that have been enjoyed. At the same time, we also have partnership businesses where 2 to 20 people will be involved in business to enjoy profit. We also have limited companies. Under limited companies, you would be learning mainly about public limited companies as well as private limited companies. You need to have the clear difference between these two types of limited companies. Usually, as part of limited companies, public limited companies, you will be learning large organizations where transnational companies are part of public limited companies. Then we also have cooperatives. Under the cooperatives, you need to understand that there are 3 different types of cooperatives: consumer cooperatives, retail cooperatives, as well as producer cooperatives. One important thing that you need to understand when you are trying to answer any question given on private sector businesses, in general, all private sector businesses' main aim is profit maximization. Even though private sector businesses' main aim is profit maximizations, there are certain types of private sector businesses, such as cooperatives. Their main aim is not always to maximize profit, but sometimes in the case of cooperatives, their main aim will be to fulfill the needs of their members, how to satisfy their needs. For example, in the case of cooperatives, if you are thinking about a producer cooperative, sometimes agricultural workers' living standard will be quite poor. As a result, all the agricultural workers will be joined together and they might form a cooperative where they can get advantages of bulk buying, so that their main aim is not to provide goods and service for profit, but also to satisfy their basic need or to survive in the market, right? So remember that even though it is the main aim is profit maximization, sometimes it might not necessarily be helping to maximize profit. Then we also have public sector businesses. If you're thinking about public sector businesses are organizations that are created by the government for the welfare of the people. Main purpose of public sector businesses will be to satisfy needs of the community. But even though the main aim is to satisfy goods and services or to provide goods and services for the welfare of the people, there might be situations where some of the public sector organizations might be aiming to get profit, depending on the kind of activity that they are carrying. Sometimes public sector also, they may have 100% ownership by the government, or sometimes there can be partial ownership by the government. That varies from organization to organization. We also have joint ventures where separate business entities created by 2 or more people. So these are the general public sector as well as private sector businesses that you need to understand in this unit. You also need to understand how to measure the size of firm, whether to identify whether it is a large firm or small firm. There are a lot of factors or a lot of areas that you have to identify. One of the important criteria that can determine whether a firm is a large firm or small firm is based on the value of output they produce. If they produce more output of goods and services, then they are usually categorized as large firm. At the same time, if they employ large number of workers, depending on the number of workers that have been employed, then also they can be considered as a large firm. And in addition to that, depending on the market share they have, if they have a larger percentage of market share, then they can be large firm. If it is a smaller market share, then can be considered as a small firm. In addition to that, based on the stock market value or market capitalization, if their market value is high, then they can be considered as large firm, and if it is low, usually they are considered as small firm. Remember that when we are thinking about measuring size of the firm, small or large, it varies from areas to areas. Some of the organizations or some of the institutions, they consider large firm based on certain number, where other organizations might be considering based on another number. Different figures might be there. According to European Union, if it is a smaller or medium enterprise, they need to have less than 250 employees, and their annual turnover has to be less than 50 million euro, and financial position will be less than 43 billion. So that means if they are large organizations, larger businesses will be having more than 250 employees, annual turnover of more than 50 million euro and their financial position of 43 million euro. So these are the ways to determine whether it is a large firm or small firm. As I mentioned, this size varies from context to context, and from country to country it may have differences. We also need to understand, why do firms grow? When we are thinking about reasons for firms' growth, mainly there are three reasons why firms wish to grow in size. One of the important reasons is to enjoy economies of scale. You need to understand what is economies of scale. Economies of scale is, in general, the advantage that a large firm will get when they produce goods at lower average cost. So generally, all large firms will be able to produce more output of goods and services or at lower average cost, because the more they increase the output, the lower the cost increase. The lower the cost increases for them. As a result, they can get benefit. Theoretically, this means they are using less input or less resources, and they are producing more output of goods and services. So percentage wise, if percentage changes in input is less than the percentage change in output, we can say that large firms are able to enjoy economies of scale. How might large firm enjoy economies of scale? Economies of scale is actually another topic or another area that we'll be covering in detail, but let me give you a brief introduction on economies of scale. How might a large firm enjoy economies of scale? For example, if you are thinking about large firms will be able to get access to finance easily, because large firms will have a lot of valuable assets with them. As a result, they can get loans and other financial supports easily based on the value of assets they have. In addition to that, large firms will also be advertising variety of products, so different products at the same time. So the cost per advertisement is likely to be lower. Apart from that, large firms will also be having a lot of specialized sales staff who will be promoting their product effectively. Hence, they will be able to enjoy economies of scale. As I mentioned, we will be discussing about different types of internal economies of scale as well as external economies of scale as later part in our lesson. Another reason why firms wish to grow in size is to obtain larger market share. Larger market share is when firms' size is becoming bigger, they can have abusing monopoly power in the market. When they have monopoly power, in the sense, for example, if a firm has legal market power, firm will be getting if they have more than 25% market share. But theoretically, if a firm is having a natural monopoly, means 100% market share will be there. So when a firm's size is becoming larger, maybe because of merger that they have taken place, or maybe because of the takeover within the industry, in this case you can see that their market position will be quite high. So as a result of their market position, they will be able to determine the output, and they will be able to become price maker instead of price taker. So once they set the price, they will be able to set the price in a way that they can maximize profit. Hence, large firms will be able to obtain larger market share and lead into greater profitability. So that is also one reason why they might wish to expand. In addition to that, you know that large firms will also wish to ensure securities, how they might be maintaining their position in the market. In case if you are thinking about large firms, the advantage that large firm will have is diversification, means they will be producing variety of goods. If they produce variety of goods and services, what will happen is, even if the demand for one product decreases, they'll be able to cover the cost by selling the other product. They don't need to leave the market immediately because of the loss that is being incurred. But if you are thinking about the situation of a small firm, if they are dealing with a single product, when the demand for that product decreases, then they'll be experiencing loss throughout. As a result, they might not be able to survive. So one of the important reasons why large firms will wish to expand is to ensure security or to maintain their position in the market by providing variety of goods. As a result, their market position can be improved. So basically, there are three reasons for firms' growth: economies of scale, obtain market share, and ensuring security through diversification. Apart from this, also you should understand that large firms will be able to survive in the market mainly because they have high barriers to entry. Barriers to entry is again another topic that we'll be discussing, but what you need to understand is there can be legal barriers, there can be cost related barriers, because large firms will be usually having some kind of legal allowances, or maybe legal restrictions are being there for the large firms. As a result, some other small firms will not be able to come and compete against large firms, hence they will be able to maintain their position. So these are the reasons why large firms would wish to grow in size, or why firms would wish to grow in size. But that does not necessarily mean that whenever they grow in size, they will always be enjoying these benefits. There might be situations where they might be experiencing losses, or there might be situations where they might be producing goods beyond the optimum level. In that case, there is high possibility that they might be experiencing diseconomies of scale that we will be discussing as later part of merger and the other disadvantages of large firms. We also need to understand that even though large firms are successful in most of the cases, there are situations where small firms are even successful in some cases. One of the reasons why small firms are successful could be, or reasons for survival of small firms could be niche market. You know that for small firms, it will be easier for them to cater the needs of individual market, or they can identify market into a smaller segment. Hence, it will be easier for them to provide that particular good or service to the customers effectively than large firm. Because in the case of large firm, their market will be quite high, and it will be difficult for them to identify the individual market and cater the needs of each individual customer, right? So that is one advantage of being small. In addition to that, we have been saying that when a firm is becoming larger, large firms will be getting benefits of economies of scale, which is an advantage for them. Obviously, large firms' cost will be also higher compared to the operation cost will be higher compared to the small firms. So small firms will be having lower cost of production, so they'll be able to provide goods and services at the minimum efficient scale. Hence, there can be reasons why they might be survived. In addition to that, for small firms, since it is easier for them to enter the market or leave the market, cost that is being associated for joining the market or leaving the market can be smaller. So as a result, it can be easier for them. In addition to that, you can also see that small firms will be more flexible in providing goods and services in case if they wanted to change based on the changes in taste and fashion of consumers, or if they wanted to divert their product to other areas, it will be easier for them because they are small in size. But if it is a large organizations will find it difficult because there will be a lot of complications that can be associated with the changes. Apart from that, you also need to understand that small firms are also provided with government support. Government will be sometimes providing financial support, like subsidies might be given to small firms. In addition to that, tax relief will be given, tax incentive schemes can be given for the small firms. As a result, their cost of production will be lower, hence they can survive. As last part, why small firms might be able to succeed is, even though firms are small in size, they can have the power. They can be a monopolist in providing a particular good or service. As a result of providing a good or service, small firms will be able to provide that particular good more effectively than large firm, or they will have their market position even though percentage wise their dominating power is small, or they are operating in a small scale market. They will be still a monopoly in some cases. So if they have monopoly power in providing a particular good or service, even though they are small, they can still survive. So these are certain important points that you have to consider. In addition to that, I have also discussed about cooperatives, right? You know that in the case of cooperatives, a lot of small firms might be joining together when they are buying goods in bulk. For example, all retailers might be joining together. So if these retailers join together, they will be able to get economies of scale of bulk purchase, right? So it is not always large firms who will be getting advantages. Sometimes small firms will also be able to get advantages. So as part of main summary of today's class, you have studied about different public sector as well as private sector businesses. You have also studied about aim of public sector as well as private sector, different types of cooperatives, how to measure the size of the firm at the same time, reasons for firm's growth, three major motives you have studied, how to survive in the market in the case of small firms you have studied. So these are the basic areas that I will be covering in today's class. In next class, how might firms grow in size will be covered. Assalamu alaikum.